What's good, Chaotic Nation? It is your boy Chaos here, coach of your Detroit Red Wingles, and also acting as a content watcher, live party stream host of the GPA Season 1 for our new Global Pokemon Alliance Battle Draft League that is taking place. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the series, we've been doing a live watch party every week, and I appreciate all of you who have been watching, who've been supporting, and we are coming into the final weeks of play. We are actually just starting playoffs because there is a little bit of a discrepancy with time. So playoffs have begun officially, but before that, this is the week to get really your bid for playoffs here. I've been talking about it since the draft party last week, where we talked about week 6, what is needed for these bottom 4 teams to get in, and how do they do that, which really is hard for the bottom 3, as we have been saying. You know, with such a terrible differential, even winning 2 6-0 games isn't likely to put you in. Everything has to go well for you to get in, so we're discounting those. But like, who gets in versus those bottom 3, the 3 in the bubble there are 7, 8, and 9 seed, and which one of those 3 teams will be joining the first 4 out that do not get a shot at playoffs, but that are gone immediately as it is. So we are doing a playoff system where the top seed versus the bottom seed. So 1 will play 8, 2, and 7, 3 to 6, and 4 and 5 will play. We didn't decide on the format beforehand, so we got asked about that, and really it just makes sense to do it that way because that's what everyone's accustomed to. I personally like the set where we go first in gets to choose, and then second chooses from what's left, and then third, and then fourth. So you get a little bit of an incentive for placing higher in the league, and I like that for us. Speaking of those tiers, the Choodles, the Sunkerns are guaranteed in. We talked about that in the last couple weeks. 4 is basically what you need to win to get in, which is the case here, because the only other team out that could get in is the Richmond Rillabooms, and they have to win 2 times to pull a shot in. But then again, you have all these teams that are 3 and 3 that are sitting here. So like, if you're one of those teams, you're gonna want to win. If you're in one of the top 5 seeds with a 4 and 2 or above record, you're likely going to be able to get in, and you probably don't have to worry about much. Even if you lose to, you're asking a lot for the Richmond Rillabooms, which would be your 4 and 4 other 4 and 4 team if they went out and you lose out, to get to above +6. But also, a lot of our 4 and 2 teams don't have that big of a differential, so you probably want to squeeze one more. 5 is a guarantee, 4 is on the edge, and 3 you don't have a great chance, but you still have a shot. If you are below 2 wins, 2 or below wins, you are out. That is for sure. 3, you're probably out, but 4 is really the number. Above 50% is what we're looking at for this week. So let's see what we got matchup wise. We got the Golden Glaceons and the Phoenix Sunkerns. That's one that's not gonna matter too much here, saying this is a 4 and 2 team versus a 5 and 1 team. Obviously you want to win for playoff positioning, but that's not a match we really need to look at this week. Next is the Chipotle Choodles and the Untitled Archon team. This is a big week for Gordon and his team. If you get a loss, you are on the cusp of getting usurped by the Rillabooms that are just trying to eke in to the playoffs. So that is one for us to watch when we get to that match. The KC Torrent and the West Palm Lugias are another big one to watch, because Clock is again on the edge trying to get in. I believe the West Palm Lugias were taken over by the Richmond Rillabooms. Oh, that is a straight up hand-to-hand combat for this spot. Honestly, that is match of the week, regardless of anything else that happens here, because you're looking at your 8 and 9 seed going head to head. The winner gets a playoff spot. The loser has a really bad chance of getting in, but still can make it. Both with negative differentials here. It's not looking good. So the winner of this fight probably gets in the playoffs, and that's what we're going to see. So that is the big matchup of the week: Richmond Rillaboom versus the KC Torrent. We have Goodnight Cresselia versus the Boston Celebies. As I said, this battle again is one of the ones that doesn't matter because Mate is probably out and Banzai's probably in, so it could matter. We'll see. Again, placements, you can play spoiler here, that's up to you. And then we have the Pristine Primarinas and the Cleveland Bewares, which is another one. Dom wants to win this one big time to get above that 4 threshold. Losing is not the end of the world, but it's not a great scenario. And then last but not least, we have 11 and 12, the Detroit Red Wingles versus the Orange County Oshawots. Really, the play here is, for me, it's trying to get a 6-0 win to give yourself a chance at 3 and 5 to get in with a -9 differential. Not looking great, but it is a possibility that can happen. Still, so winning 6-0 is very big and very important here for this week. We are looking at King Kryptonite and the Phoenix Sunkerns first versus the Golden Glaceons, which we have up front here. So let's take a look at their teams. I'm going to be a little bit more slow this week than I was the last time because we were trying to get through 3 weeks at a time instead of just one. So I'll go over a little bit more and try to guess the teams before we look at it too much. All right, so Golden Glaceons, that's our Chien Pao, Iron Moth, Walking Wake, Arboliva team that is underneath of me here. You can see the rest. This is our Sun team for the season, and then the where are our where's the team? Where are they? The Phoenix Sunkerns are right here. I overlooked them. This is our Iron Val Lando Rain team. So this is a heavy weather matchup this week. Sun versus Rain. Am I right with this? Let me just make sure we are right with this. Golden Glaceons, Phoenix Sunkerns. Okay, yeah, that's Sun versus Rain this week. The battle of weather and the war of attrition when it comes to weather. So what are you gonna do here? In the case of like Weather Wars, it's either you have to full send weather or you take your time and try to play outside of it. I think both of the teams can play around it. And I think that's probably what we opt for, if I'm being honest here. Tira Kilowattrel, I think, could put in some work. Tara Shaman definitely could be an option here to deal with this team. Val goes crazy. Lando goes crazy. I think more on the side of the Sunkerns, you want to run your weather because Sun doesn't really matter too much to the Golden Glaceons, but it does. The rain does matter a bit more for the Phoenix Sunkerns, which is funny because they're two teams that, you know, have Pokemon names that would feel like they'd be in different weather, but it just, you know what, that's what it is. But are you too hard pressed to run Pelipper? I mean, there's a Rotom that could come this week, honestly, if you really think about it. Is your Pelipper doing much? I mean, if it's in the rain, Pelipper does do a good bit. Takes on Ninetales, Slitherwing, Leafeon. I think you see the sun, you see the grass sweepers, you run Pelipper. And I think that's a good bring. So I think you're going to run Pelipper, Basculegion, run the Rain Core, maybe throw in Kilowattrel if you're trying to do something. Therefore, I don't, what would you be trying to do? I don't know if you need Kilowattrel too, but one of your flyers has to come as a way to deal with Slitherwing, preferably Choice Scarfed. That would probably be the option for Kilowattrel, so maybe you don't run Rain here. I like Basculegion in or out of sun, in or out of rain rather, because you don't need necessarily need rain to function. It is nice and helpful, but again, you have Terra, so I think Terra, Kilowattrel, Terra, Basculegion are good brings. Lando is a good set in case the sun does come. It will shut down things like Ninetales. It is resistant to Leafeon, bar a Terra Ice. So that is good. And then Valiant could come. I think if you're bringing Valiant, though, it's going to be a late game sweeper, or you try to run a Focus Sash set to catch something off guard. Those would be my guesses. So if I was this team, I honestly might bring Grafaiai this week as a manual rain setter to bypass the need for Pelipper too much. But that's a choice that you have to make going into this. Really, I'm not sure what else. You definitely don't bring Probopass Shaman's a hit or miss, but Shaman has to be Terra if you bring it, so I don't think it comes. I'm really thinking it's Kilowattrel, Pelipper, Basculegion, Iron Val, Landy, and then take your pick on what you want in the back. Do you want Mandibuzz for some utility? Do you want Grafai for rain set? I think if you're going hard rain, you run Grafai. If not, I mean, even Latias makes a bid for this week just to deal with Iron Moth, maybe even as a Dragon Stab for Walking Wake. I'm not sure what the speed numbers are there, but they're probably about the same, so maybe a Scarf Latias deals with Walking Wake. I actually like that more than Grafai or Mandibuzz, so I think you take the top 3, grab Kilowattrel, Pelipper, and Latias, skip over Archaludon there, and run that. You could even run Archaludon if you think you can deal with Walking Wake, but burns are going to be crazy, and probably a speedy way to deal with Wake is going to be the better option at the end of the day. On Wayscar's side, I'm not sure what you want to bring here. If you're anticipating rain, I think you bring Leafeon. I would like the Terra Ice as a way to catch Landorus off guard. But you Terra Ice, and I think you run maybe like a Power Herb Solar Blade or probably Power Herb Solar Blade set to try to catch one of those water types out. Because if you break either Basculegion or Pelipper, it is game. If you run Terra Ice, also that helps you deal with Pelipper and does force it to have to worry about the Leafeon a little bit more in the back. So a Leafeon, I think, comes as the Terra Captain this week. Terra Ice is a good option. Otherwise, I think Chien-Pao is guaranteed just because it is a great answer to Landorus and Basculegion. It can catch Kilowattrel, Latias, Pelipper, Shaman off guard. This team has a pretty big ice weakness, and it's meant to counter that with the threats of Archaludon and probably Probopass, but honestly, it doesn't do well, so... And I guess Val to an extent. Yeah, Valiant would be a way to counter that too, but I think you bring Chien-Pao. I think you don't worry about the Valiant. You have another play for Iron Valiant, such as your Iron Moth. That is maybe more defensive this week, anticipating that Valiant to be a problem. I might run... If I'm looking at Valiant, what am I looking at? I'm probably looking at Special Valiant, so I'd probably run Special Defensive Iron Moth with, I think it either gets Quiver Dance or Calm Mind. I'm pretty sure it's Quiver Dance because it's a Volcarona parody, so I think you run the Quiver Dance to deal with the Special Valiant set. You could even bring, well, Slitherwing is a little bit of a stretch though. On the other side, potentially bringing Jirachi to physically defensive to deal with Valiant is a good option. I like that. I think Wake has a good matchup in this team, especially if it's in rain or sun. This Pokemon doesn't care. It does get boosted either way. And having some coverage moves to help deal with your Archaludon problem, to help deal with, yeah, maybe like you can get an ice move to deal with Laddie or Lando. That'd be great. But an offensive Walking Wake this week could be, especially offensive Walking Wake, could be disaster. So I think you take your top 3. I like the Leafeon in the back as an option. Now, this is where, like, do you want to run Sun? Do you want to force Sun Leafeon? Potentially not. This is a team that is heavily weak to Stealth Rocks too. So do you run a Donphan to try to get rocks? Do you run a Terra Colossal to try to get rocks? I think Donphan makes sense. I like Donphan this week as a counter for Kilowattrel. It forces a switch, and then you can do something like Rapid Spin or try to catch something on the flip, especially with Ice Spinner in the back. I like that as a bring this week. And if I'm looking at what else, I mean, honestly, it's what... Pick your poison here. Do you want to try to run Rotom for the flying types and get stuffed by Kilowattrel? Do you want to run another Terra option in Arboliva, which I think honestly could go pretty well? Again, it does not have a great matchup considering Val, Kilo, and Pelipper there, but it could be nice. I don't think Dachshund's there because that's really a counter for Sun teams or teams that are going to abuse your Sun. The question then really is, what is this last slot? And I honestly have no idea. I like the 3. I like Jirachi. Oh yeah, it's Jirachi. So it's Chien-Pao, Iron Moth, Walking Wake, Jirachi, Terra, Ice, Leafeon, Donphan, and I think I didn't say Jirachi. I might have said Jirachi, but those are the 6. I like those builds. We do have the matchup though for Kryptonite's team, the Sun Kerns. So let me get that in play for us, so we can take a look at what actually brought. We do see the Latias come. It comes early as an option. This is literally just here to stuff Walking Wake. Anticipating like a Draco Meteor war there, deals with that. You have Healing Wish, you get Iron Val back in. Although I'm not a big fan of the Booster Energy Iron Valiant set. It is physical, which I do find a little bit interesting. Trying to take advantage of, I guess, the dual stabs to catch Wake, to catch Chien Pao, to catch a especially defensive Arboliva with Assault Vest, to get Slitherwing, the non-defensive Slitherwing, and also a good option for Jirachi as well. So I mean, it's great. I don't like Booster Energy particularly this week. I might have like thrown, especially because Booster Energy Swords Dance is kind of overkill in my opinion. It is jolly, so it will be speed boosting, and I know that you want to get your speed up, but maybe an Assault Vest, maybe a Life Orb this week. Changing moves is going to be Valiant's best option. The Boost Energy can catch things, but I think getting it in and out is going to be the more important part, and I'm not a big fan of Boost Energy on this thing this week. Our Chaludon Covert Cloak, I'm a little surprised about that. It is a rock setter, which again is good for either team, mostly because there is a lot of fire weaknesses. There's some bug types that are weak to rocks. The chip is good. It breaks Focus Sashes, like, and I think honestly that's a big thing that we haven't seen a lot of this season is Focus Sash. But for like this week, I think it goes really well. There's Landorus down here with Choice Scarf. That's a nice niche option to catch Wake. Maybe not even really to catch Wake, to catch the Iron Moth on a boost. I think at +1, Landorus still without speed, so +1 EP would get the KO there. It also outruns a lot of the other Choice Scarfers that you would see. And then we have a Eject Button Pelipper with Drizzle. That is meant to get the flip of the rain. Otherwise, the stat is pretty standard, although it's more defensive than perhaps I would like. You are running Eject Button over Damp Rock, which means you can't go for long turns of rain, so you are trying to set up your Basculegion. Although I'm not sure why Pelipper's being brought when this Basculegion is adaptability heavy duty boots. As I said, I don't think Pelipper has an okay matchup if you want to send it, but you have to really send it, and I think this is a little bit passive with an adaptability Basculegion that is Terra Fighting, which is, I guess, a Chien Pao answer, which makes sense because that's going to be something you want to switch in every time to this Pokemon. But yeah, Rush Respects, Terra Blast, Agility, Adamant, Heavy Duty Boots meant to stop taking the chip damage. I anticipate they're expecting rocks of some sort to come in with this team, but I mean, I'm not a big fan of what is brought here. I think you're leaving a lot off the table because we are not seeing sets that I would like, honestly. I think you're bringing the correct mons. I think you need to send the rain a little bit more, and maybe you have a better option for Walking Wake. I mean, I guess Focus Sash Latias is your best bet, but I think a more of a defensive Valiant set with Swords Dance to catch a switch and then pick off a kill would benefit you a lot more than trying to do your Booster Energy set. So but let's take a look here. On the other side, we see Wastecar is going no sun. Wastecar is going sun. Sorry, I can't see. So that is, the weather war is in effect. Rain versus sun, that is going to matter the most here. But we do see Chien Pao come. We do see the Sunsetter in Drought Ninetales. Like I said, probably defensive Jirachi this week. An offensive oppressive Walking Wake in the sun or in the rain. Colossal with Terra Grass and Arboliva with Terra Grass. Opting for 2 Terra Grasses instead of another way to deal with Lando, I guess that does mitigate your damage. The Terra Grass Arboliva is meant to check the close combat on Iron Valiant. So we'll probably see more of a mixed Jirachi, maybe utility Jirachi. This is probably some sort of, I don't know if you go Grassy CT, right? This might be like a Harvest Recovery Leech Seed Stall set with Arboliva this week. That's meant to be defensive to take on Iron Valiant, especially with Terra Grass. The Colossal definitely wants the Terra though because of Baskia Legion, and honestly, you don't want to Terra Arboliva too fast because of the potential of Last Respects, which we know the Baskia Legion has. You want to be able to counter that with a normal type. So I think Arboliva is a great bring, even though I didn't mention it. But the teams are kind of crazy. What's the lead here? I think you lead. Do you lead Colossal knowing that the lead's probably going to be Pelipper? I don't know. I probably think it's probably a utility Jirachi, so I'm going to say Stealth Rock's Jirachi is the lead to try to get pivots to make that Pelipper stop switching. And on the other side, potentially you could go for the rain early, seeing that it's good. I doubt it because in a war like this, you want to be setting the later weather. So I would imagine it's going to be Jirachi or Chaludon. Potentially we see Lando here, but we'll see what shows up. It is Latias coming in immediately, and that is going to be a switch into our Chaludon, which should have just been the lead anyway, because this will just be a trade for rocks here. Oh, we're going to see Thunderwave. That's actually good utility. It is utility or Chaludon. The burn is there. Reading that no damage is going to come through, and Ninetales is actually built pretty bulky, meant to take on our Chaludon 101. I like the set. Weather Ball is interesting, although now your Focus Sash Latias makes no difference. And I think at the end of the day, that Walking Wake just has a free win right here. I mean, your two biggest answers to it are Chaludon and Latias, are both pretty broken at this point. And you can surely sack them on to get them in. The Future Sight Jirachi tech is interesting. Potentially trying to get some switches. You are baiting that Thunder Wave and taking it every single time, which is very interesting. So, and the Para Hacks is definitely just causing problems. The switch into Latias is really good, as you see here with the Future Sight coming into play. Latias is not defensive though, which is mildly a problem. Which means it just naturally has to take the hits. But I think pretty much this is in Wastecar's favor. Even 2 Paras, just not getting unlucky with hacks is still a win. You've broken the Latias, you've broken the Archaludon, and now they're really having to find some other way to switch around, because Pelipper and Lando can't keep switching in because of the rocks. Valiant has one good go, and that's it. So I don't think Nightmare or King Kryptonite really has an answer to stop the defensive core of what is probably these 4 Pokemon, the Ninetales, which is obviously shown to be more defensive. It's probably max defense or max HP, one of the two. Probably not both, but one of the two. Definitely not max special attack, so maybe it could be even a little bit of investment in each. With some speed on that at 2. Colossal is definitely meant to be more defensive. It's probably not a weakness policy. It could be a weakness policy set, but it's probably a Steam Engine set to boost speed in rain. Expecting to take a hit Terra Grass off on. It's probably a defensive Colossal with Terra Grass to deal with the Baskia Legion that is there. So. But again, I think it's Kryptonite's job to try to find a way to break them on, and none of these are working. Honestly, like that is grassy seed. It is a defensive Arboliva that's we get to see, and Alluring Voice is the break on Latias, although it doesn't really matter too much now. But what is coming in? Lando showing U-turn and/or Sludge Wave, and we're just letting Arbo go down to get another sack into what is now probably just a dead dead Archalanon, which it is, the Chien Pao, which is heavy duty boots. Very much anticipating this set. And then here's a Wake to try to deal with stuff. So this is Basket Legion trying its attempt outside of rain to do its work, but this is scarfed. This is scarfed Walking Wake, which is what you want to see. And a good switch into Valiant here because you know it's scarfed. You're going to take the hit, and then you have to switch out and let something go. If this is SD, that puts King Kryptonite in such a great position to hope that a knockoff is enough to take out Jirachi, and then nothing wins here. So the reverse sweep actually comes out here, and this is the GG 4-0 victory. Simply because I don't know what we did. We locked ourselves into Draco Meter. That was the biggest downfall. Like the two things to deal with Wake went down, and Wake goes down now. So it's Chien Pao versus Iron Valiant without Terra, which doesn't matter because CC wins. And the only way that Colossal has a hope to come back in this is to click its Terra and hope that we can one-shot, but it's just dead. Yeah, +2 Valiant just goes to him. And hey, I mean, that's great team building. I didn't really like the booster energy set, but King Kryptonite played it correctly with the booster energy, giving you enough speed to outspeed your big threats. And the Stealth Rocks came into big play in this match for both sides because it limited the pivoting on Pelipper and Landorus, but that also meant that you were more free to go into your Basket Legion straight away. And on the other side, Stealth Rocks got 2 kills. It took out both the Ninetales and the Walking Wake, which is massive. That is more kills and more damage than Stealth Rock is supposed to do in a match. It's supposed to break like Focus Sash and get chips for one-shots. But +2 Iron Valiant, I guess, KOs everything on the other side of the field under booster energy. So getting in was the win con, and there was no answer to it on the other side. Even Terra Colossal was not defensively invested enough to take it. I'm wondering now if that was supposed to be Jirachi's job and it was just too weak. I wonder if that was supposed to be Jirachi's job and it was just too weak to deal with it. I mean, we did see a more utility Jirachi. It was 100% special, but at not full and at +2, I don't think Jirachi lives that at all. Even maxed. Let's run a calc here real quick. I haven't run calcs all season doing this, but like a physically defensive Jirachi. A lot of Jirachi sets are specially defensive, but a physically defensive Jirachi set, if it's max basically, we knew it had to be some sort of setup move. So it was probably Calm Mind, especially offensive Calm Mind Jirachi. We did not see leftovers on it. We was Shookaberry. But against a Chien Pao, or sorry, an Iron Valiant. An Iron Val. That is an OU Sword Stance set with booster energy speed. At +2. At +2, even a max defensive Jirachi doesn't live that hit. So the plan must have not included the Valiant setting up Sword Stance. Because that setup, that one turn of Sword Stance setup for free really cost the game. Because it's an 98 to 115%. If it is max Jirachi. So you weren't winning that fight. It was just GG's and the game was over there. So I'm gonna note that on my little sheet here, that we get a 4 and we get a -4. And I'll probably do this off screen, but we'll see what time we have at the end and if I want to do it or not. But yeah, so that's big for Wastecar because that's a 4-3 and you have to win next week to really keep yourself in. Because you're at 3 differential at a 4-3 record, and if you lose, you're at 4-4 with probably neutral or even. Somewhere around 0 would be your differential. And if these teams below you are winning out, you're out. So it's going to be a close match. Maybe a waste car even gets the drop in the season. All right, next up is Dom and Beans, I believe. The Cleveland Bewares versus the Pristine Primarinas, if everything is correct. Yes, the Pristine Primarinas and the Boston and the Bean guy. So we are looking at the Cleveland Bewares. This is our Terrapagos, Masquerada, Kyurem, Lando T team. And then they're right next to each other, so it makes it so much easier to compare because I don't have to like go across the board. This is Urshifu Single Strike with Tornadus T and Wash. Honestly, pretty interesting teams that I think are fairly evenly matched for the most part. This could be a second Kricketune bring, honestly, for the Bewares. In my opinion, I would be worried about Sceptile and Burden coming out to try to deal with your speed. I would be worried about the natural speed on Urshifu, on Wash. Well, Wash has Levitate, so Wash doesn't take it. The natural speed on Cinderace and Urshifu and Meloetta that have been proven to do some work this season. So I might go Kricketune here if I'm Beans. I'm definitely bringing Terrapagos as a way to potentially counter Wicked Blow Urshifu, which kind of forces you to read a special D-Gleam or play rough set, I guess. So that would be an option. Meowscarada comes, Flower Trick, 100%. That is your priority at the end of the day to deal with stuff, especially trying to take on Urshifu and Wash. You definitely need to bring Meowscarada. And the change in typing with Protean will be really good against into the Cinderace matchup if you get the right switches. Typings there and movesets are going to come down to a lot with Meowscarada and Cinderace, and I think that we see that matchup, the Protean versus Libero matchup this week. I'm not sure you bring Lando. Honestly, there's really nothing for Lando to do this week, so I'd leave Lando at home. I might try some sort of Necrozma setup. I honestly don't like that too much, but I might try it. And let's take your pick of Terra Captains. What do you want to do this week? Raichu looks actually really good naturally into Crawdaunt, into Wash, into Torn T, into Skarmory. Like a Specs Raichu could go crazy. I like that. So I think I'm going Terrapagos, Meowscarada, Raichu, Kricketune. In the back, I'm probably doing D-Dance for Alligator this week as a win con, especially with +1 and the speed drop. It should KO everything and be faster than everything with the right coverage moves. You need a water move. You need a dark move. You might run ice. Those would be the 3 I would choose: water, dark, and ice, which for Alligator does in fact get. So I think that's another one. And then it's take your pick on your final slot. You might run Lando for rocks, utility, intimidate, but that's really all I could see it for. Kyurem could be fun, especially a defensive set to try to take on Rotom Wash, and Rotom Wash, Crawdaunt, Sandslash, Sceptile, the lower tiers, Torn. I like Kyurem. I think it's Kyurem. So I think you go Terrapagos, Meowscarada, Kyurem, Lando. Terrapagos, Meowscarada, Kyurem. You run Raichu this week. Give it Terra, whatever you want to give it. And Kricketune and for Alligator would be the set that I would run. Lead Focus Sash Kricketune and go crazy from there. On the other side, I'm definitely bringing Urshifu as a way to deal with Terrapagos and Meowscarada. I'm bringing it defensive this week, and I'm probably I might honestly go Adrenaline Orb to try to counter Lando. That seems like a cool set. But you got to bring it, I think, to deal with Necrozma in case it wants to be a sweeper. It does well into the team overall, so that definitely comes. On the other side, what stops the Meowscarada on the other side? Torn looks pretty good. It would have to be a physically defensive Tornadus too to do any work. And then Regenerator to flip around. So that's probably going to be an early pivot mon. I would say that's good. Otherwise, I'll be honest, I like Skarmory this week with Whirlwind. Skarmory get big last time with the beat on Azu, but I think Whirlwind Stealth Rocks is massive into this team. One, it breaks the Terapagos if it's not running heavy duty boots, which is pretty good. Otherwise, you get it in versus Skarmory, and then it can't do anything. And if it wants to set up, you can pivot it out. So I think a super defensive Skarmory with hazard stacking, the typical Gen 2 Skarmory works wonders this week. I'm bringing it. It's my lead 100% of the time. The only thing I'm worried about then is Hisuian Typhlosion, which you have Rotom Wash for. And I like Rotom Wash this week outside of Meowscarada to spread para and those kinds of things. So I think you bring Wash too. I think you just go the top three. Potentially Hisuian Goodra. I actually really like Hisuian Goodra this week. It kind of stuffs its counters. It's a pretty good answer to Meowscarada with Sap Sipper. You have to bring, I think you have to bring Hisuian Goodra. You bring Skarmory, and then you take your pick of the bottom tiers. Do you run your Terra Captains? Do you run Cinderace to try to get the anti? I think we see the Cinderace. I think we see no Terra Captains from Dom this week. We take the top 6 powerhouses, and we try to make something happen in this team this week. So that's my prediction, but let's see what we get. I'm very wrong apparently. So we see the Kricketune, which I think is the right call for Beans, just to deal with the speed. It will shut down Fezandipity. It will shut down Cinderace. It catches everything on this team outside of Rotom, which is huge. We do not see Torn to deal with Meowscarada, so the job of dealing with Meowscarada now falls to Fezandipity, which is okay. It's a pretty good counter at the end of the day. Kricketune lead webs is definitely shown, so you find a way to deal with that, and there's no, you probably don't have you don't have an answer for that, but you might go Libero Cinderace, click your fire move of choice to deal damage to it, and then court change the Kricketune on the backside. So I think it's a court chain Cinderace leads. That would be my leads, is court chain Cinderace against Sticky Web Kricketune, and the side that ends up with Sticky Webs is probably the loser in this fight, if I have to imagine. We do see the Terra Captain, so Terra Dragon, Dragon Dance, probably, what's the thing called? Crawdont. Fezandipity is Poison Fairy anyway, so, but it's not a Terra Captain, is it? No. Is Fez a Terra Captain? I think your Crawdon is your, yes, Fez is a Terra Captain, so the Fairy could be there for, I don't know what. Honestly, I think it's fine. I think you run Terra Dragon. And I don't know why it's Terra Dragon, but to deal with Meow, probably just to deal with Meow. But I like Adaptability Dragon. Crawdont. I overlooked that. Honestly, I was too focused on the no, for Alligator's on the other side, is it not? Yes, for Alligator's on the other team. I did overlook that because I wanted Skarmory to come big time, and I think Skarmory would be a great use, especially with this team. Pivoting in and out, like Rocks breaks 3 of the Mons on the other side, 4 if it's not the 4 if it's not heavy duty boots Terapagos, so that's pretty good. And also having Rocks to deal with Meowscarada is pretty big too, especially to break Focus Ashes. You don't really have anything that's going to one-shot it and take it out, so that's probably your biggest threat on the other side, and probably the win con for Beans is that Meowscarada. But otherwise, I'm not sure what Dom is looking at to win. there's a lot. There's a lot of factors here for Dom. I think Beans is a little bit more of a straightforward win con, I think, at the end of the day. But let's see the leads, and I think it should be Cinderace versus Kricketune. It might not be. It's Rotom Wash versus Meowscarada, which is a crazy lead. And we see immediately the Sap Sipper Goodra. It is not. It is Gooey Goodra. So, again, everyone, it's Shukaberry Goodra. Wow. And the Kyurem just goes down. I think that's a bad bring, honestly. But we did see the Gooey come out, and it wasn't anything else. We have a great tech in SmackDown Earthquake on that Lando. And we're seeing that I don't think that's choice band damage, but we are seeing that a Terra Dragon Crab Hammer could have gone crazy. This is the anti-Earthquake. We have beat up to try to proc Toxic Chain 5 times. It gets none of them. It gets none of them, and that is a crazy bring. The Aqua Jet coming out, that will stop the webs, which honestly, the fact that if you're gonna bring Kricketune, you have to commit to the lead Kricketune. Otherwise, it's kind of just dead. It can't take 2 hits. So, but it's Cloak. That is Cloak. I didn't think about that. That is 100% Cloak Lando. The roll is so bad to miss, what, 5 times and not get Toxic Chain. So that is very unlucky, or that is cloaked Landorus T. But the Aqua Jet Crab is doing great work. I think it's choice banded for sure. And it might want to stay in, it might want to switch out. It's going to let Goodra take the Thunderbolt. So Bean's getting some bad predictions here, but Gastrodon. The Goodra is taking it, but what is dealing with this besides it is literally just Urshifu trying to do some work. That is Rocky Helmet Life Orb with neutralizing gas. Interesting. So the Pyro Ball does take out the Meowscarada. We don't see the battle there. We see a choice Scarf Cinderace, or a choice band Cinderace, probably Scarf. Another choice band attempt here, and honestly, it's pretty much in the hands of, yeah, how do you play that turn? The Thunderbolt is enough, but Urshifu, I don't think wins against both the Weezing and the Terapagos. It has to flinch here. That's the only win. Oh my gosh, the flinch hacks is the win for Dom this week. Crazy battle, honestly. Very, very, very crazy battle. The flinch hacks on Ironhead to win the game. I think honestly that Kricketune was a bit of a waste. It was a lot of a waste. It was very much a lot of a waste to me. That we see it not work, which just kind of throws me off that it didn't do anything. Like, it just kind of came and took a hit, and you can do that with any mon. So the fact it was Kricketune, good for you. I guess it came. We didn't get anything beyond that, but it did decide to show up. So fair enough. What's next up? It is Clock versus Hammy, which is a big time match. It is the 8-9 match this week. I'm actually gonna save it to the end. We're gonna get a little preview of what the teams are. I'm gonna save it to the end because I think it is the most important matchup of the week. So let's wait for it. We'll look at Gordon versus Thread now instead, which is our Phoenix Sunkern. Which is our undefeated Chipotle Choodle versus a team on the cusp of getting kicked out of playoffs. So that depends on what happens here. The Gordon Untitled Archer team is Garchomp, Spectre, Sneasler, Rillaboom versus the undefeated Chipotle Choodle, which are way over here, which is our Gouging Fire team. And Gouging Fire, like on it, like this team itself is crazy enough to like warrant the #1 slot. Like Gouging Fire, Scizor, you have Pecharunt, you have Terra Keldeo. Like whoever let them get away with this, let them get away with highway robbery. Such a good draft from Thread. And I'm pretty sure I hated it at the beginning, but he made the really great changes to his team to get everything where it needs to go. And I think took some of those things to heart, especially like Terra Grimmsnarl was terrible. And honestly, not worth your 3rd slot. It's a cool Pokemon, but it's not worth a 3rd slot. But we are got Gouging Fire, Scizor, Grimmsnarl, Pecharunt, Espathra, Keldeo. What's at the bottom you can't see is Terra Gligar, Terra Quag, and Terra Chinchino. Not Terra Chinchino, Chinchino, rather. Sorry about all that. And then on Hammy's side, it is the new build with Goldingo and Amorous. On the bottom is Diancie, Terra Diancie, and Infernape, which are pretty cool Pokemon. So if I'm looking at this, what am I seeing between these two teams? I know it's going to be hard for me to show you both, but I'll get you your best view. If I'm Hammy, I bring Tinglu every week because it's fat. Not only is it fat, it's a great answer for Gouging Fire. It might be the only answer. So it's hyper defensive, probably with some sort of phasing options this week, and Earthquake. You don't need much more than that because the only real concern is Thundurus, and then you just switch it out. So yeah, Tinglu comes and is brought. It is probably his best Pokemon, even though was the 3rd round pick. Tinglu is it's nuts. It's such a good Pokemon. It's so fat that you can't kill it. Otherwise, Enamorous is great into Gouging Fire as well, with just the Earth Power on the back end. Otherwise, ooh, what am I doing? I definitely think you run Jolteon to try to counter the Keldeo this week, just because you want the speed. Even if it is the Terra Keldeo, you can Thunder Wave and then mitigate it for the rest of the leak. So a utility Jolteon, Volt Switch, Thunder Wave will definitely show up for this team. And then I think Incineroar, which is not even here, is a good option. I would think that you bring Infernape. A CC, well, it could be defensive Gouging Fire, especially offensive Infernape could be the answer for Gouging Fire and Scizor. I think that's great. With Terra options, it could go for the Keldeo too. I think it counters most of your big threats. So Tinglu and Amorous, Jolteon, Infernape. In the back, you forced to bring Ogerpon, I feel like, just to deal with Quag. And it's a great answer for Keldeo too. And it's not bad into other stuff, especially with utility, so I like that. And then beyond that, your final bring probably is... Ooh. I don't know if there's a good bring. Probably Goldingo. Maybe as an answer for Pecharunt and Grimmsnarl, in case you're expecting that. I mean, Goldingo Gold does completely counter Grimmsnarl, so maybe you're not expecting that. If you're not expecting it, perhaps you decide on a defensive Komodo set as an option, another option for Gouging Fire. I like that as well. So I'm going to say Enamorous, Tinglu, Komodo, Jolteon, Ogerpon, and Infernape is Hammy set. For Thread, I think you're forced into the Quagsire, and you're like, well, you're forced into Quagsire. What do you mean? You're forced into Quagsire because you need a way to deal with Tinglu, and Toxic Stall Quag is one of the better ways. Even if it's just going to come in to do something, Toxic is so big to mitigate that Tinglu's usability in the field. I think you do that. You're definitely bringing Pecharunt as well for similar reasons. Actually, probably you're just going to stick with Quag. You're probably not going to worry about Pecharunt at all. I think you bring Chinchino as an answer for Tidy Up. Actually, Serena looks better with Rapid Spin, so Quagsire and Serena feel great this week as options. Yes, and Jolteon's Terra Grass, by the way, if I didn't mention that. It should be Terra Grass. Quagsire, on the other hand, I feel like grabs a different kind of Terra. Potentially grabs a Terra Dragon this week. That feels good. You want your offensive pressure, which is the Gouging Fire. So that's coming. I think Keldeo comes with Terra option. I like that. So Quag, Serena, Gouging Fire, and then kind of take your pick. I like the idea of Espathra for the speed control to outspeed Jolteon. And if you get a Calm Mind, it can set up and win in the right circumstances. You are worried about the Ditto, but Ditto's never coming, so you got to play it that way. I think Espathra comes as a sweeper in the back, and then to take hits, maybe you go Pecharunt on the other end. So that would be what I would suggest and expect to see. I don't have any notes, so let's see how close I got it. It's not bad. It's not a bad option here. This is Gordon. I'm looking at Hammy's team. Nani? Was I looking at Hammy's team this whole time? Yeah, I was. Haha. Well, that would have been a good matchup for Hammy. Since I apparently can't read what I'm doing, we get a completely different team on Gordon's side because I was talking about a completely different person. So we do see Gouging Fire, Keldeo, Serena, Quagsire, Gligar, and Scizor. So a super bulky later half with probably Choice Band or Dragon Dance, Gouging Fire, some sort of Keldeo offensive pivoting set, and then Rapid Spin, Serena to help deal with stuff. This is our Azumarill sweep team, so we have to be careful about that. It is Terra Fire Azumarill sweep to counter the Scizor, which is huge. But otherwise, it's probably Garchomp lead to get rocks up and or Bronzorg lead to get rocks up. You are going to be going against probably Quagsire, Quagsire or Gliscor or Scizor, so you probably lead Garchomp, and I hope that Garchomp has the right stuff. It's probably screens again on Bronzong. That is the tended to be set. Grassy Surge, Rillaboom that probably is vested. Specs or Scarf Chi-Yu, and then Life Orb on Spectre would be my guess, but I'm gonna stick with Garchomp and Gliscor as the lead, or Gligar as the lead, and we'll see what happens. Rillaboom, so this is a double U-turn turn. Just kidding, we're gonna see a straight switch to Scizor with Rocky Helmet and we get a knockoff here. So this is expected to be a U-turn, a pivot out. There's Rocky Helmet, Rough Skin. Not Rocky Helmet, just Rough Skin. And Serena comes in to try to spin away hazards, potentially. Or just to try to click Triple Axle, which works too. We get to see that this is a defensive Chi-Yu set. So anticipating the switch, goes back in the Rillaboom. And again, Gligar is just going to force the switch out, and then U-turn comes out from this Rillaboom. Really kind of controlling the momentum here on this front. You have to switch unless you're going to just go down, which you do. Scizor kind of can't do anything besides stop the Azumarill. And even then, it is dealing with the Azumarill's power in the back. That is a Scarf Chi-Yu set that we get to pick up on. Here's the rocks to prevent the switching, and that honestly just does wonders, especially with these hazards coming off. There's no real way to spin them, so Chi-Yu just dies as Gligar is getting more and more spikes up, which honestly is really good and will chip down that Azumarill far enough that it probably can't do much. And that is a loaded dice Garchomp set, which is a big power play because it just gets to set up here and do what it wants to do. Unfortunately, there's a burn on Quagsire, which is meant to take this a little bit better. So now do we see Toxic? Do we see Toxic? Do we see Recover? We see Ice Beam. The non-invested Ice Beam. I would expect you click Recover here to try to save, but we're just going to take out Garchomp. And unfortunately, I think you've kind of let the Azumarill just come in and click Belly Drum right now. Because you're showing that Quagsire can't really do damage here. It has to one-shot, and it can't. The Unaware is gonna stop it a bit. It's not Unaware Quagsire. Why? Thread, buddy, you know what he wants to do. The Terra Fire does stop the Power Whip from KOing, but Gouging Fire, I think, wins this. Yes, Gouging Fire does win that. Unfortunately, sacrifices its life. That is not Levitate, that is Heat Proof Bronzong. Probably going for screens here. It has Meteor Beam. That is a crazy tech. What a play. Power Meteor Beam Bronzong. I am a big fan of that. We see Heat Proof, it does not Levitate. The Terra Dark. That's crazy. But I think this is Rillaboom's game to lose at this point. Honestly. Maybe even Spectrator's game to lose. They wants the health back. And it's going to be faster because we know this is not Scarf Keldeo. Yeah. Gligar, I don't think wins the 1v2. No way. And Grimnay just boosted even further. Yeah. That Draining Kiss is going to just win. Wrong ability on Quag. So Thread does get that out there. Does not run Unaware. Unaware Quag completely stuffs the Azumarill because it is Belly Drum, Play Rough, Terra Blast, and Aqua Jet. None of those moves are particularly super effective on Quagsire, and you have to imagine that it was Earthquake or Liquidation as one of the other moves that it had. Maybe even Surf or Earth Power, which are both super effective and does stuff this Azumarill if it's Unaware. But that will cost you the match, not having the Quag. We're gonna have to put some limitations on Terra Azumarill for future seasons, from what we've seen there. And Thread goes down. I didn't even realize that. That is the first loss for Thread this season, versus Gordon. In a time where Gordon really needs this win to secure a spot in the playoffs. And I think Gordon does grab playoffs with that. It puts him at neutral at 4-3, taking on the #1 team. I mean, honestly, he doesn't even care if he gets the one of the bottom places because he's shown that he can beat the #1 team in the league. So that is a crazy match. These cusp teams are clutching up in week 7. So it really puts the pressure on this match that dare I say the winner of this 8-9 match week 7 is guaranteed playoffs because they beat their biggest competition. That is a really cool thing to see with the matches coming down to that and just how this works out in the season. So this match holds all the marbles for playoff contentions, barring spoilers in week 8. So that is where we're at. And we're moving on to Banzai and the Boston Celebies versus Goodnight Cresselia and Mate, our good buddy Mate. So let's take a look at those teams. Goodnight Cresselia, I believe, is all the way over here. It is the Dragapult Treads Samurott Hisuian form. It looks so much better after the refurbishings. Again, I'm not sure about Dewgong and Okidogi on the bottom there, but they're here. Dewgong and Orangaroos, rather. And the Boston Celebies are our Roaring Moon Corviknight team. That has Trick Room mode and the Terra Knackle stack, which is crazy. Absolutely brings Terra Knackle stack, particularly with Dragapult, Treads, Samurott, and Moltres. Salt Cure is ridiculous. And for the coverage, you just have to pick a good Terra. And honestly, I think your Terra this week, it might be a niche Terra, but Terra Bug actually looks kind of slappy this week. And it also beats Okidogi out. You might run. We'll probably end up seeing Ghost or Steel because those are the guaranteed. And they'll take their pick. Do I want to run Ghost and be weak to Dragapult and stop the Iron Tread spin, which probably will be the case? Or do I want to run Terra Dragon to stuff Iron Tread's ability to hit me? Flying also is a great Terra type this week because you only have to really deal with Raikou. So I think Bug, Rock are your better Terras, but we definitely see Knackle stack come. It's a Mon. Honestly, it's a lower tier Mon that comes every week. It's so great, especially with Terra. Even without Terra, it's still a good Pokemon. And I'd love to run a league with it without Terra just to see how it does, but it is a great Pokemon. Otherwise, I think I might be trying to win this game on the back of Corviknight. And you're like, Chaos, that sounds crazy, but hear me out. It's a perfect answer for Dragapult. It forces Dragapult to run Flamethrower. If it's going to run any coverage move. It's an answer to Treads. With the right set, with the right moves. I think it comes. I think Corviknight's a great answer. I also think under Iron Bundle is super good. That's going to deal with your Moltres. That will also be one of your best, if not your best option. It is your best option to deal with Dragapult. 100% your best option to deal with Dragapult. So that has to come. It's also not bad into Treads or Samurott. Your ice move of choice this week is probably Freeze Dry. You may have to run Freeze Dry Ice Beam if it's not enough on Dragapult. Your Freeze Dry Ice Beam, Flip Turn, and then fully offensive. I definitely expect to see that. Probably Life Orb would be the call in my mind. You probably don't need... Yeah, I would not run Hippowdon this week for Sand. Specifically with Treads and Ogerpon Cornerstone there. Definitely with Ogerpon Cornerstone there because in Sand, that's crazy. The Rock Boost is nuts to have. On the other end, we're looking at Corviknight, Knuckle Stack with the Terra. I think Conkeldurr at the bottom comes. I know you can't see it, but Conkeldurr is a pretty good matchup. It's really only bad into Florges and Cresselia, which are two Pokemon that don't really want to fight it 1v1 because of knockoff and poison jab. So it feels good to me, and it's a great counter to the top three. I like Flame Orb Conkeldurr this week, big time. And beyond that, I think you kind of choose what you want to do here. On the other end, I think Roaring Moon probably comes just because it's your lead, it's your number one pick. I don't think it has to, and this might be the week where I leave it. Otherwise, Volcarona is pretty nice as a setup. I like that, honestly. I think Iron Bundle, Knuckle Stack, Conkeldurr, Corviknight, and then pick your pick between Volcarona and Roaring Moon. I think actually just those two and call it there. Vaporeon might not be bad either, but it kind of just loses to... I guess it gets a Luring Voice, so... It's not bad. I like Vaporeon too. I don't like Gengar. I don't like Rotom this week as much. I don't think Rotom does anything. I don't like Komala because I don't think hazards are really your problem. I'm not a big fan of Roaring Moon this week. So I think those would be the best 6 to bring. On Mate's end for the Goodnight Cresselia, you're kind of forced into some way to deal with Bundle, which I think Florges does pretty nicely. With an Assault Vest and or Lefty set. Dealing with it offensively, I think Raikou, a setup Calm Mind Raikou with Terra is stupid this week, so that shows up. I think those are your two big duh questions. On the other side, Samurott for hazards feels pretty good, but you might be worried about Knuckle Stack. I think Treads with hazards and pivoting is great. A defensive Iron Treads feels great to me this week. Moltres with utility pivot to answer things like Corviknight, I think is required to come. And then your other picks are kind of just up in the air because Terra Raikou takes the cake. I think Florges has to come. I think Moltres has to come. I think you bring Dragapult and Iron Treads just because they're your best Pokemon. And then kind of take your guess at the end what you want. I think Okidogi is pretty good, especially for Knuckle Stack. If it wants to go Terra Steel, it can beat it. If it doesn't go Terra Steel, then you get the poison chances. And I believe Knockoff also is available there. So I like that. I think those are what you should bring. Again, I don't have any team builders or anything, so we're just going to take a look at what comes and how close we got. Banzai goes with the Sand mode. We see Terra Fairy Knuckle Stack, which is a counter for Dragapult rather than a counter for Iron Treads, which, you had to pick. I do the niche for Bug here. The niche for Terra Bug is kind of cool. But That's just me. The thing about Knuckle Stack is you're never going to beat everything on the other side, so you have to chip something away. Especially trying to deal with things like the Dragapult and the Cresselia that are physical attackers. That are not physical attackers. And Raikou. Is Terra Ice Raikou to counter Hippowdon, which is fair. I might have said Terra Water Scald. Honestly, I would have said Terra Water Scald to burn, especially for like the switch chance to be into Roaring Moon. I guess Ice also covers that, so that's why that's there, but to each their own, I guess. Otherwise, we got a pretty good match, and it's who breaks the other sweeper first, which is just Pokemon in general, but how can you set up your sweeper and get the best positioning? And honestly, the best sweeper on Banzai's team might just be the Knuckle Stack, the Terra Fairy Knuckle Stack. If you can drop the Iron Treads, Knuckle Stack wins. That is it. If you drop Iron Treads, Knuckle Stack wins. Gengar showing up tells me it's Choice Scarf as a way to outspeed Dragapult. The Dragapult is probably a little bit less useful here, but I imagine it's specially offensive and some utility on the back. I do think it's Calm Mind, Sweep, Win, Raikou. The Vaporeon, as I said, had a good matchup. The Scald Burns are going to be crazy into this team if you can land it. But the lead 100% on the other side, on Mate's side, is either Samurott. Is probably Samurott, because worst case you flip turn, best case you get spikes up, or you decide to choose Dragapult and just get a U-turn out. With Banzai, if you're not running the booster energy Roaring Moon, that's the lead to pivot. If you are running booster energy Roaring Moon, it is meant to be the set. It could be a great lead anyway, because it could knock off into anything for free. And I say free lightly, but the knockoff catches everything on this team really well, because none of them want to lose their items. So I would honestly say this is a Roaring Moon lead. If you're gonna be crazy with it, I think Roaring Moon lead. If you're gonna be safe and passive, we see Hippo down. We see Vaporeon with the flip turn capabilities. See, imagine the world. Imagine the world where we lead Roaring Moon with booster energy speed, outspeed Dragapult that thinks it's faster, and knock it off. The worst case in that situation is that it's, well, I guess, yeah, it probably clicks a Dragon move if it thinks it's faster, but knockoff could have gone crazy if you outsped. And I don't know what the set is for Dragapult yet. We haven't seen it yet. But the double flip is what we expect there. Here comes Trick Room. No. It's just straight out offense. I was imagining Trick Room. They were probably switching out for Nuzzle and or just to get positioning. That is not specially offensive Iron Tread, so we are looking at a physical set. And here's the Calm Mind Raikou setting up really, really early to try to win. And it has it right now. Like, I don't know what beats it a +1 besides Knuckle Stack. And this is just a free Stealth Rock and or Salt Cure, which is really huge into things like Samurott. So, and I would have just stayed in there, taken the Terra, gone for what you could. I mean, Treads is the guaranteed switch in every time on Knuckle Stack. It has to go, or Knuckle Stack can't win. And this is where you just start, honestly, clicking your setup move. Whoa. I can't remember what Samurott's move is right now. Ceaseless Edge that sets up spikes, because you want to get these chips on these switches, especially on a Roaring Moon. And a Gengar that could be Focus Sash. Probably not Focus Sash, but could be. But you're burning your Terra here on Terra Water to deal with Iron Treads. Now, albeit there's not, that just opens up Treads and Ogerpon to be the win, and also Raikou if it has Scald. But since we've seen Terra Blast Volt Switch, it probably doesn't have Scald too. The Mystical Fire is huge to drop the special attack, which means even if it's a pivot, it's doing literally nothing. If that was weakness policy, that would have been freaking sick. But this Hatterene is now just going to sit here and call mine because Cresselia just lets things set up on it. So I think actually maybe the Terra Water Cresselia was huge because what's stopping it right now? The Ogerpon going for its own setup might be the answer. I mean, we've seen Draining Kiss. We see Draining Kiss, Mystical Fire. The other move's got to be like maybe a Psychic move, maybe Trick Room. Probably Trick Room, honestly. And you just let Ogerpon come in, set up, and win. Because your answer to it is Destiny Bond Gengar, I guess. Never mind. I think it's the second time we've seen Banzai pull the Destiny Bond Gengar, which is awesome tech. Unfortunately, that was a 2-for-1 deal when you're already down by 1. And now we're getting Para Hacks. So, what is your answer is the question. The other thing is, no, I'm sorry, not even, that was just an unfortunate turn. But because you've burnt your Terra Water, Knuckle is now weak to Samurai. And you are now seeing Ceaseless Ledge come out to get spikes up. And this Vaporeon is probably, it's not Protect. It's just a defensive Vaporeon that is trying to live. So we expect to see Wish stalls. We get 4 runs at Ceaseless Edge. 3 of them connect. That's 3 layers of spikes that can't go away. And we see Dragapult maybe trying to win here. That is probably a mixed defensive Knuckle Stack. And that is a Draco. So that kind of shows us it's Choice Scarf Dragapult not to be beat by Roaring Moon. And the only way Roaring Moon can win now, because it has to be the win con, is if somehow it can set up and sweep. It is Life Orb, potentially. It is Choice Scarfed? It is Choice Scarfed Roaring Moons. We have a double Choice Scarf set, which does mean that Dragapult is faster, but I think Mate is seeing that Treads just wins the exchange. Because that Vaporeon does not have physical defense, and you body press, you either Iron Defense or body press here, and you just win with Iron Press. The unfortunate part is you didn't consider a Roaring Voice and the damage. So the way Roaring Moon wins now, I don't know what the way Roaring Moon wins now is. This is an Earthquake coming out, which is doing literally nothing. Treads just runs this game now. An Iron Press, Iron Treads set is crazy and a great set, honestly. That just absolutely wins. I think the mistake, you brought Choice Scarf Cresselia with Trick and didn't bring Trick. Wow, that's crazy. That's funny. That's a funny misplay. But I think the biggest mistake was Terra Water Hatterene. I know you didn't really need it, but that crazy Lunar Dance Cresselia was a set. So we imagine it's T-Bolt, T-Wave, Lunar Dance, and Trick, but it's probably was Moonlight instead or something. Because what you did was you allowed Ogerpon in. I don't know. I have no idea what the Roaring Moon set is besides it was Scarf. Again, Roaring Moon is such a liability, in my opinion, because it either does its job or it doesn't. And I think the lead would have been crazy, although this is definitely Scarf Dragapult, to deal with Scarfed Roaring Moon in order to deal with, not Scarf Roaring Moon, but to deal with Booster Energy Roaring Moon. Because I do not believe that it's Dragapult. I do believe that Dragapult is naturally faster, yeah. So even if they're both, it's probably Choice Scarfed. Because the idea is if you are booster speed, you outspeed, and that's a one-shot from the Roaring Moon. If they are both Scarf like they should be, that first turn, correctly, that first turn would have been a KO either on both sides. However, Dragapult does get the KO if they're both max, and that's with pretty much no investment. So it's whoever outspeeds, which would have been Dragapult. So would have been cool to see that. Didn't see that, but hey, it's what it is. Also, if you guys are enjoying the stream, leave a like. I would appreciate that. I thank you for those of you who have already done so. All right, and then our last match of the week 7 before we get to the battle of the week, the match of the week, regardless of how it goes, it is the match of the week. It is the Detroit Red Wrangles, coached by yours truly, versus Scal and the Orange County Oshawotts. My team is Greninja, Excadrill, Zapdos, T-Tar, Houndstone, Latias, Clefable, Crocalor, Decidueye, Scyther, and Hisuian Quillfish. She's got a pretty good brain. I am pulling up my notes because I write down my notes physically, mostly because I want to have them. So I'll tell you what my team is. I'll show you the builder and all that stuff. This is probably the most intense breakdown I'm going to have because I know what the team is and I know what it's supposed to do because I built it. So let me see if I was Scal, I guess, what would I bring into this team? I'm bringing Fluttermane, an offensive Fluttermane of some sort to probably deal with the. I'm probably bringing. Do I bring Scarf Fluttermane? I don't know. I bring something to deal with sand here, expecting that's going to be the option. Maybe Gliscor. A hyper defensive Gliscor. That would be my guess. Other than that, I'm not really sure. You guys can't see either team, which is hilarious to me. It's this team right here. Other than that, I don't know. Quackleval definitely has a potential to sweep, and was something I was really big and scared about. So I think Quackleval shows up as well. My guesses for this team. So here's what I have. The Fluttermane is a Spectre booster energy set, meant to be hyper offensive to do a lot of damage. The Virizion is Terra Ground Swords Dance, because I am telling you, Terra Virizion in the right hands is crazy. If it works, I'm thinking a super defensive Toxic Orb Gliscor set, as I mentioned. I think it's Quackleval setup sweep with Aqua Step and Moxie. Raging Bolt as a defensive wall breaker of some of sorts, and also the answer to my hyper speedy Greninja. And King Gambit with Sucker Punch, because that just stops my team. If something like Excadrill gets out of hand, King Gambit can Sucker Punch and secure a KO. So that's what I'm expecting. Here's what Scal actually brought. And then we'll go to my team, because I'm going to have more to say than what Scal brings. All right, so we have our Fluttermane with Life Orb, so it's not it's not hyper offensive that way, but it is offensive. It's not max speed, which is a big note. 188 speed, if my calc is correct. I think still outspeeds a max speed Greninja. It's a Timid, or it's Timid. So 188, that is speed calc specifically for Greninja, I'm imagining. Yes, it is speed calc for Greninja. By a good bit too. Maybe it's meant to deal with. I can't imagine it's meant to deal with Excadrill and Sand. No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't honestly know why the speed stat is that way, but I didn't build the team, so. But yeah, standard 4 attack Life Orb. The utility is Energy Ball and Power Gem this week in order to deal with probably Crocalor. And the guaranteed the Terras it'll want to do, and the option it has there. Energy Ball to catch the Tyranitar for some damage that otherwise switches into it and utterly destroys it. So there you go. We have the Heatran that's coming, Berry. Flame Body to catch the burn on things, although I don't know what you're catching with a burn, to be fair. A defensive set, a non-super defensive set with Body Press is crazy. But we see a double Berry with the Quackleval, which I was really concerned about. I think it does better with like Assault Vest, and I was really calcing for that, especially after last week's battle. I think that set goes crazy, but an Aqua Step just goes crazy. Especially with Moxie Aqua Step, and then we can't burn it, so really playing the burn and the para on Quackleval there with the Lumberry is great if I brought those things, but I didn't. There's your hyper defensive Gliscor set without being hyper defensive. He sacrificed too much in HP and attack to worry about the defense, and it was fast, so that was kind of crazy. Probably meant as a lead with that 200 speed and U-turn, or take your pick of hazards. We have the Cryogonal here with Rapid Spin as the answer for hazards on his side. With Heavy Duty Boots to deal with it, it is Terra Steel. I'm not sure exactly why. Probably because it's a great Terra for Levitate. And also, I guess that helps deal with Excadrill. And then you have a Rocky Helmet Regenerator, Toxic Spikes that you can't see with Sludge Bomb, Surf, Ice Beam, and Toxic Spikes. So we see pretty much every set of hazards coming in this team this week, which isn't the worst case scenario. I think it's a good option. I don't know if I ever said that to him, but I think it's a good option for his team to bring the max special side. But otherwise, here's my team. I have my Excadrill that's coming. I said it's a sand team, so I'm gonna run sand. Life Orb Sand Rush allows me to pivot between the options. Swords Dance for the boost. Haha, this is not this week's team. This is next week's team. Sorry about that. If I looked at the list. Haha, let's actually start with what we need to do. We're looking at Clefable this week. That's our start. I did bring Excadrill. You can see my team there, but Moonblast, Underwave, Wish, Stealth Rock. This is an unaware set for this week, specifically meant to catch Calm Mind, Fluttermane, or it literally can't counters Calm Mind, Fluttermane, but it also counters the Quackleval if it tries to be a Moxie set. We have Thunder Wave to slow it down, which obviously doesn't work because of the Lumberry. And we have Stealth Rock, so this is a pretty good Pokemon. It's a pretty good lead option as well, just to catch any of these Pokemon, besides really to deal with Gliscor. But it's a pretty good lead option. Other than that, the Wish is there for your longevity. Stealth Rock for hazards on the other side to stop in case it's like Sash Fluttermane or something like that. I was prepared for all situations. And then Moonblast as our stab. Terra Rock. Not sure what it was for. I have no idea what Terra Rock was for now that I'm looking at it. Oh, it's not a Terra Rock. It doesn't have Terra. I have I have two Terramons that I brought this week, which is Tyranitar and Crocolore. So we'll talk about that later. But max special, max HP. Sorry, max special defense, max HP to really take the special hits. I needed that because there are a lot of setup sweepers on this team. Particularly Fluttermane Calm Mind is a crazy set, so wanted to be prepared for that. Then we have the sand mode, so we are bringing the Horndrill, the Excadrill, with Earthquake, Iron Head, Poison Jab, and Substitute. Substitute specifically was the counter for King Gambit with Sucker Punch. The idea was with enough with leftovers healing, even if I took a hit somewhere else to get in, I could substitute on the turn that King Gambit would go for Sucker Punch, and then I have a free kill. That was the only thing that I really could think of that stops Excadrill in the sand as a sweeper. So I figured as much to have Substitute deal with that, which is my main option. Here is just to click Substitute, stop that. Also, it's great for like any hazards that might want to be flung out. Could catch something off guard too. It's great for like a switch turn if something wants to try to switch out Excadrill. And then leftovers is there for recovery. I don't need the damage because I am max attack. I have enough speed investment to outspeed Fluttermane at max speed in the sand. So I outrun everything in the sand with Excadrill here, barring any like Choice Scarfers, but I didn't expect that. really with this team. And its main jobs were dealing with Fluttermane in the sand. It can take on most sets of Virizion pretty well, especially what I was anticipating, which was a Terra Ground Virizion. It takes that on pretty nicely, specifically with Substitute, if it wants to try to set up in my face. It beats Cryogonal with Iron Head, as long as it doesn't Terra. Even if it does Terra, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not defensive enough to really matter, and I just one-shot it anyway. It can beat Gliscor. Gliscor's a little bit of a problem because I have to stall it, but it can do that. It takes on Quackball, specifically in the sand, but it can also do some other stuff in the right spots. It's a great answer for... it was a great answer for Sand and Rapid Spin as well. Other than that, Heatran and Raging Bolt both just die to it. King Gambit is a good matchup. Again, the only King Gambit set I was super worried about was a Sucker Punch Supreme Overlord set. And that is countered by Substitute, so Excadrill beats that. And then it beats Toxapex too. So fortunately, 135 is enough attack this week not to have to invest too much in anything else and deal with that. To get Sand up, we have to have Sand mode, so that is Tyranitar with Smooth Rock this week. Excadrill is the win con for this week. The heavy win con for this week, so Sand is much needed. I have Stealth Rocks to limit pivoting here. As you can see, I'm running double Stealth Rock because I feel like it's really important in case Fluttermane is a Wish Protect set. Not a Wish Protect, a Calm Mind set and or a Focus Sash set. So I have the answers for that. We have Knockoff just for good stab into knockoff items. We have Rock Slide for another stab move. And Avalanche just to be cheeky, because really the hard answer here is to deal with Gliscor, and that is with Terra Flying. Because its main move is going to be U-Turn and Earthquake, and Terra Flying really doesn't care about that. Plus, I have the quad effective Avalanche, which I'm going to move later, especially because I'm not invested in speed at all. So that is what we're there. We are max HP, mostly special defensive, because that allows us in sand, especially to deal with Fluttermane. And we can do work there. And then I have a little bit of attack, which is enough to get KOs. I think it's a knockoff KO on Fluttermane is what I was calculating for. And Adamant is just great, regardless, for just damage over T-Tar. This does counter Fluttermane for the most part. It is a little scared of Fluttermane, I'll be honest, but it does counter Fluttermane. It's a good answer for Virizion with Terra Flying. Not a great answer, but it's a good answer. It beats Cryogonal. It's meant to hard counter Gliscor. I didn't have really anything else to beat Gliscor besides Greninja, and I wanted another option for that. So in the worst case scenario where I needed it, Tyranitar Terra Flying was my answer for Gliscor. We had a contingency there. It beats Wacky, it beats Rotom Heat. It beats Rotom Heat. It beats Heatran, and it beats Raging Bolt most of the days. But Knockoff is going to be really good just regardless in anything. And the defensive capabilities, specifically with Sand and boosting Rock, is great for T-Tar on a special side. I hate to see an AV T-Tar in the sand, which would just be crazy. Then I have Greninja, which is my #1 pick, which, you know, you bring Greninja always. And I decided to run no Stab Dark moves, which really only helps me with Fluttermane, but the answer for Greninja was not to worry about Fluttermane. I am Protean after some very much needed consideration, because this Greninja set is whack. But Protean is very important. I am Hasty, which boosts my speed over my defense. And that is a showdown calc. I think I was a little bit more offensively invested with my attack, and or I was more into speed. And it's like, hey, if you change your nature, you know, it does that if it can help you. So we actually are higher defense than we normally would be without any investment. So that is the case there, and that is why we have what we have. But we are 4 attack, Protean Focus Sash. The idea is to change my typing. So I have Ice Beam, U-Turn, Hydro Pump, and Extrasensory. It's pretty standard what they're here for. Honestly, there's specific matchups for each of those typings that, if you look at their team, you definitely can see that. The weird part is the stat spread. So I wanted some investment in attack for U-turn capabilities for switching. But we did go most in speed. That allows us to outspeed the whatever the next thing that's faster than next fastest thing, which I think is actually Raging Bolt. No, it outspeeds a +1 Quackbubble, I believe. That doesn't seem right. No, that's not right. It outspeeds Quackbubble naturally. It's meant to be a problem at that point. So we can do that if in case that was the answer for Greninja. Realistically. That's why Extra Sensory is there. Hydro Pump is Stab, U-turn for pivoting, and Ice Beam for Gliscor. And max special attack to get the most bang for my buck, because believe it or not, Greninja's not that great. I would have never drafted it myself. I don't particularly like it. I like its great options in sets that can catch people off guard. I just don't feel like it's got quite enough power to do what it needs to do, which makes me very interested for Mega Greninja to see how its stat spreads go. I'm really excited about that in competitive. But yeah, Greninja is here to deal with Gliscor primarily. Otherwise, it can deal with Flutter Mane in a niche scenario. A very niche scenario, which means I get in and I'm Terra Water. I'm not Terra. I get in and I'm Water type. That's basically it. And can land a good hit off of it. Otherwise, okay for Virizion, meant to stop it from it being super fast. Another reason why Extra Sensory is there. Out deals with Quackball in a niche situation again. Beats Thwacky with Ice Beam. Heatran with Hydro Pump, and Toxapex with Extra Sensory. So the Psychic attack is actually really good into this team for the most part. Next up is my boy, the Crocalor with Eviolite and Unaware. This week I am bold, max HP, max defense, mostly to deal with things like Gliscor that I have problems with. The special side is not that important to me this week because there are other things to deal with Flutter Mane, specifically T-Tar and Excadrill, so I wasn't super worried about that, as well as my Clefable deals with it. So I could be more physical with Crocalor, whereas Clefable was more special defensive this week. It's the standard Crocalor set, Flamethrower, Terra Blast, Slack Off, Will-O-Wisp. I'm Terra Fairy this week. And that is what? I don't have a Terra. That is to counter some things that might cause problems. I beat Virizion. It can beat Virizion in most sets of Virizion. I beat Cryogonal. This is a counter for Gliscor and Quackball. And also pretty good into King Gambit too. So this is a pretty just like catch-all defensive Pokemon. I needed something to deal with that and get my pivoting around. So that's what Crocalor is doing. I don't like this song, so I'm going to skip it. Sorry about that. Crazy song. Also great if you want to see what my team does. I do this in team builders too, so I just like break down everything. And then last but not least is my Latios, which was meant to be a meme set. And I'm going to preface that because if I slap weakness policy on something, it's a meme set 9 times out of 10. But the idea is I have built so specially defensive that I can come in on Flutter Mane, or come in on King Gambit, or come in on anything like that, and I'm built so defensive that I can do that, particularly with Calm Mind. As I come in, Calm Mind, I'm at +3 then with the weakness policy boost, and then I outspeed, I believe. I think that's what weakness policy does. Nope, it's just attack and special attack. I lied, sorry. I will not speed, but I do have enough defenses at that point with a Calm Mind boost that +3 that I threaten everything else on the team. So Recover there for longevity, Psyshock there specifically to deal with Flutter Mane on the special side because it is a physical glass cannon. The special side, it has 135 base special defense, which is crazy, but 60 base defense. So the stab into the non-resisted stab into its weaker stab at +3 goes nuts. Ice Beam specifically, so I do not get beaten by Gliscor. And the other fun thing about the Gliscor matchup was U-turn can also set off weakness policy. So Latias had some really good options there to get set up with weakness policy. I am max HP to tank hits, max special defense to tank hits, and then special attack, because the way I get stronger is the weakness policy Calm Mind boost. So it is meant to just sit here and tank hits as much as it possibly can. At +1, we deal with Flutter Mane. We deal specifically with Virizion, Cryogonal, and Gliscor. Cryogonal especially because that is the special defensive wall that will try to stop Latios, especially with ice type moves. But at +1, I don't really care. It has to be like a hyper offensive specs Cryogonal to really do anything to Latios. And at that point, again, it's just proccing weakness policy, which makes me just one-shot it with Psyshock, and I don't really care. It can deal with Gliscor. It sort of takes on Quaquaval. The problem is knockoff. Then the problem is the speed, really, and being that's physically offensive Pokemon that can outspeed after a couple hits is not great. It deals with Thwackly, Heatran, Raging Bolt to an extent. The question is if it's a Draco set, then a Calm Mind Draco set or a Specs Draco set, it goes kind of hard into this to stop me. And then Toxapex in the back, that's another thing, like another special wall that gets beaten with Psyshock, because Psyshock is a really broken move and no other moves have that. Psyche types are really cool, and I just like having that ability there to do with that for us. But let's take a look at this battle. I'm going to be watching from my perspective and kind of telling you what I'm thinking about from what I remember, because it's been a bit since we've done this battle. So on my end, we are seeing Terra Fairy Crocalor and Terra Flying Tyranitar. On Scowl side, it is just the Terra Steel on the Cryogonal. We've already broke down the teams, so I think what I'm doing here is anticipating that it is going to be a Quaquaval or Gliscor lead, assuming that the ideal is flip turn or U-turn. And I honestly don't remember what I lead with because of that. I think I lead with Greninja, but I'm not sure. So don't hold me to that. I do lead with Greninja. And the idea is to catch, if it was Gliscor coming in. If it was a Gliscor lead, I bop it. If it's a Quaquaval lead, I bop it. So this is my best counter for the lead options. Fortunately, I get counter-led with the Flutter Mane, so I have to make a pivot early, and they're going to pivot early. Not sure what I'm going to do there, and we get to just bring in Clefable. So I get rocks up for free here off of a rapid spin, and so we're playing a little game of what do I want to do with Clefable, really? Do I want to keep setting up rocks? Do I want to try to damage? And I went for damage there to kind of force. Also for the special attack drop that we did so happen to get here on Heatran. They were expecting the Stealth Rocks, but we switch into Greninja, which I get a free U-turn on, expecting that the Heatran is switching, and then we bring in Crocalor to try to deal with it. So the idea here is the Will-O-Wisp, because the only thing that really comes into that is Heatran, which it does. The Terra Fairy actually helps us out a little bit here. So here's where Latias comes in. I'm not really worried about Heatran. I'm not really worried about anything, and it's a free Calm Mind. So we are getting the Latios set to work here, and I stayed in on Cryogonal there. Specifically, like, it has to be, even if it outspeeds me, it's just setting me up to really be a menace later on. And Psyshock will KO. Unfortunately, Cryogonal, I didn't think had any speed investment, so we outspeed. And this gets us in versus Flutter Mane, which is who we want to be against, because we are max HP, max special defense, with a special defense boost. And off of one of the highest special attack stats in the game, that does 50% super effectively. That is crazy how much power the Flutter Mane has. But what's even crazier here is that you just proc weakness policy, and I'm suddenly a +3 Latios that just one-shots you. Now, I was thinking with that turn specifically, do I recover and have to take another hit? or do I straight up attack? And I've figured that it was better just to attack, because the worst case scenario was something like Quackleval comes in and then it knocks off, and that's the end of Latios's run, which is not terrible here. Latios did more than it needed to. It got 2 kills at that point, which is way more than it was supposed to, because again, it's a meme set that wasn't meant to do anything besides be funny and haha, I caught you off guard, and the haha caught you off guard sometimes works, as we get to see here. So now it's kind of like, what does Heatran want to do? And I'm imagining it's rocks. I think I recover here, if I remember correctly, just to heal up. And we do get the nice tech for Heavy Slam. So we're going to play a little bit of a stall game to try to, one, deal with the Heavy Slam damage, but also get to the point where I can live a Heavy Slam enough to do an attack. Because this exchange is won by Latios as long as Recover is on the field. So that is the plan. Recover as much as possible. We're just going to see the exchange of Heavy Slam until I can take 2, which is unfortunately not for a while. A lot of turns of healing there. And now we probably can take 2, but I'm going to heal just to take it safe, just in case it's a high roll, which it would have been. And now I can live 1, and again, now we take out the Heatran with Psyshock. So Latios gets 3 kills, doing more than it needs to. And here's Toxapex, which we already know can't stop me, so we just bop it in the face. And here's the real problem. So what I was mostly concerned about was a speedy Gliscor. I'm gonna pop back to this turn. What I'm the most concerned about seeing Gliscor come out here is that it has some sort of speed investment that will make it so I can't KO. We know it's like 200 speed, and I can do a quick calc here with having no investment. We know that 100% of the time that a +1 Ice Beam is killing. But the question becomes with Gliscor, what set is it at this point? And we know that it had 200 in speed, which means it probably still didn't outspeed unless it was a nature that boosted speed, which I don't remember if it was. But I figure that the safe play here is not to, and especially as we've been talking, my season hinges on getting 2 6-0s, and I was trying to play that. So I figured the best option here was, there's no way you're clicking a ground type move. You're probably clicking U-turn and or knockoff in this set. So we're gonna just switch out, drop the weakness policy, go to Greninja, who is meant to deal with any of these hits. Unfortunately, there's my Focus Sash, and now we're showing our battle versus the Quackleval. The Terra Crocodile early was great. And now that there is no Heatran to absorb Will-O-Wisp, I can sit here and just burn stuff. And yeah, we did debate here about the Latios switch being a misclick, and I did talk about that. Again, I wasn't sure what kind of Gliscor set it was. It was holding out to the back. I kind of expected it to be a Toxic Orb. At this point, I was assuming it could be a Toxic Orb Sweeper, and I didn't want it to outspeed Latios and KO me, which there was a way it could, especially because I didn't have any speed investment. So that was kind of the play, but I think it was the right one looking back at it. And I think we'll see that going forward. So unfortunately, spikes and setup is kind of what's here, and expecting me to switch out, but I have Stealth Rocks on the field, and I don't really want to take that too much. So I think I'm going to try to use Crocodile here as much as I can. And we see good damage because it's not specially defensive at all. So Crocodile actually can win that fight. Now the deal is the Quackleval here, which is going to be annoying because with close combat drops and unaware, you don't actually get the drop. So the Quackleval is still going to have the same stats defensively, regardless of what it has. And at this point, I did use Willow to drop the Lumberry, but I was still thinking that this was Assault Vest because that was the set I was the most worried about. And unfortunately, there goes my Eviolite. I missed the Will-O-Wisp, which causes a lot of problems. but I am still going to try for it, and I miss it again, which is crazy. And at this point, I have to slack off to heal up. We are seeing Aqua Step get an unfortunate crit, which matters a lot to the game state. I think we both said GG's earlier, but what I'm worried about here is definitely just like crits or something happening that loses me the match. And again, I am trying to get a 6-0. I did let them know that. They thought I was BMing them for a second there, but I'm just trying to get a 6-0, and I'm using Crocolore to do it, mostly because I want Crocolore to get a kill. And I sitting here calcing for Assault Vest. I let them know that afterwards. That was my problem. My set had Assault Vest, which the Assault Vest on Crocolore does like 60 to 70% in that range. And so the burn was trying to whittle down that too, but also I couldn't switch because I didn't want to take an Aqua Step, and nothing else beat this thing at this point besides maybe the Clefable. So unfortunately, my brain blipped for a second, and I forgot that the Lumberry procced and that it was a Lumberry set and not an Assault Vest set. So that was my bad. That's probably why Scout thought I was BMing a bit, but I was calcing for Assault Vest and not Lumberry. I missed that little bit of information, probably through the rage of missing so many Will-O-Wisp in a row there, which did not help my case. All right, so now the battle you've been waiting for, and we are trying, folks. As I said, I'm definitely trying to stay in this because I have to win out and win 6-0s to even have a shot. So that is that. What happened in Banzai? I guess we can look at the... I didn't write down what happened in Banzai in Mate's game. It was a -2 for Banzai, I believe, right? I guess I can look at the schedule and see what happened here. Yeah, it was 2-0. Look at me remembering stuff. All right, so here's the battle that really matters. The battle of the week for week 7. Kansas City Torrent versus the Richmond Rillabooms for a potential spot in playoffs. We already talked about Hamby's team, so you know what's there. But the other side is the Kansas City Torrent, my boy Clockwork, who's got Great Tusk, Darkrai. Crazy that Darkrai went after Great Tusk, in my opinion, because Darkrai's so good, but... Great Tusk, Darkrai, Dragonite, and what you can't see there at the bottom is the Sandy Shocks Lapras. So we saw the Terra Lapras pop off last week in what was a very stellar match by Clock, but I don't know if he can repeat it against Hammy's really good team. Like, Hammy just has good teams all the time. If I am Clock, I'm looking at this team and peeing my pants because what is your way to deal with Ting Lu? None. Nothing really. No real good way to deal with Ting Lu. There is no good way to deal with Ting Lu, period. But I'm bringing Ogerpon 100% to try to find a way to get set up so I can one-shot the Ting Lu. I know that's a little bit tough, specifically with the Jolteon and a Ogerpon of his own there, but that's what I'm going to try to do. Otherwise, I am bringing Darkrai with probably Choice Scarf to deal with an Amorous and Voldingo. Probably running Terra Ice as well to help deal with the Ting Lu in case that happens. And then coverage moves like a Psychic move for Infernape of the sort, and then maybe even the Sludge Bomb for an Ogerpon option. Definitely Sludge Bomb for an Ogerpon option there. So those are coming. Dragonite potentially with a set of some sort, like D-Dance, Earthquake, Ice Punch, Dragon move. Feels good to me as an option to set up and sweep. Even bringing a defensive like Thunder Wave Dragonite to kind of be utility work, especially with Thunder Wave to stuff something like, well, I guess it wouldn't be able to do too much there. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. Great Tusk is an answer for Jolteon. Not a great answer for Jolteon, but an answer for Jolteon. You have Tinkaton to try to do something. Not really sure. On the other side, I think Hammy definitely brings Ting Lu. The defensive set makes sense. It really only cares about Wellspring and Great Tusk at that point. Rabami and Tinkaton can do a lot, but they're fragile, and Ting Lu can easily deal with them, especially good options to get rocks and stuff up. So that comes again. I like Goldingo as a way to try to deal with nothing, so it's not going to show up. I like Enamorous is what I meant to say, as a way to try to deal with Darkrai, Rabambi, and Tinkaton. Its Stab and Earth Power set do great. Even a physical set kind of goes off this week, especially with Fighting being the choice move for that. And that counters pretty much everything. So Enamorous has a really good potential to sweep. So Enamorous Ting Lu, you bring Jolteon for the counter for Ogerpon, who has a really good matchup into your team this week. You bring Ogerpon to deal with Ogerpon, which is crazy to say, and also to catch the Lapras on the Terra. Otherwise, I think Infernape or Diancie is in the back to try to handle the rest of the stuff, and also to be a Terra switching. So let's see what they got. We see both Diancie and Infernape as Terra captains this week, coming from Hammy's team. Getting Terra Fighting and Terra Fairy, which is a staple of these two, just to get rid of one of their typings and to really upgrade their really good offenses anyway. The Ditto shows up this week, which is mildly concerning because Ditto is just a stupid Pokemon. I hate it. On Clock's side, we get a Terra Steel Dragalge, which is probably meant to help deal with the Diancie, and a Terra Fire Chandelure for more offensive power, which might not work since it's Terra Fighting Infernape. But we're looking at lead options. As I said, Ting Lu has a great matchup into everything on this team outside of Ogerpon. I expect it to be the lead. I would expect Rabambi to be the lead from Clock, but let's see what happens here. It is Tinkaton doing something versus the Goldingo doing something, which is a set. Clock throws immediately. Yeah, Clock threw frame 1 through, trying to paralyze a Pokemon that has good as gold, which is crazy. And then letting him sit behind sub, and get a boost. This Goldingo actually might just win here, straight up. Just kidding. Tinkaton is defensive enough to stop the leftover spam and also revert Goldingo back down to half. So this is where it really matters. Here's the Terra Water. Sorry. Here's the switch into Ditto with a Citrus Berry instead of the Choice Scarf option, but takes a good hit from that, and then we get a switch out, so allowing Clock to have the lead when it comes here to positioning. Terra Fire is great to try to catch Goldingo, probably enough to KO. There is Acid Armor to stop Earthquake, but Ruination comes out. Is that going to matter? I think we're fishing for a burn here. I think that's what we're doing. Flame Charge to get speed boost. Is this trying to set up and win here? Knowing it's a Whirlwind set, it's kind of crazy. All right, that is a Horn Leech. You got greedy. A water type move catches that Infernape and kills it. And honestly, you click that every time. There is some speed control coming with Rock Tomb, also trying to catch Rabambi, but you've shown your hand, unfortunately. Dragalge's here, trying to do something, and that is a recovery Goldingo that is defensive AF. Not defensive AF, it is just because the drop for special attack. So now we are both dropped 2 stages, and this is a switch. An easy switch into Ting Lu, which I was surprised wasn't the option earlier, but especially off of a special attacker. We have Heavy Duty Boots, Great Tusk, and the Ruination is causing too much problems here. So we're trying to pivot to get things dead. Earthquake is enough because there is no boost now, and that is Heavy Duty Boots Rabambi. Double Heavy Duty Boots on Clock's team here, which is kind of crazy. The Earthquake coming out again, which was able to be dealt with by Great Tusk And that is why Heavy Duty Boots is on Great Tusk, because we can spin away its stats. It's not strong enough, though, to deal with the Enamorus, though. And this should be a poison move unless prediction happens, which it does. Unfortunately, this Dragalge cannot stay at full special attacking prowess, which is causing problems, and there is no drops happening, so there is an argument that sub is a right call here, but this is a nasty Goldingo set. Sub, recover, nasty plot, make it rain, which may just be able to win. It is defensive, and here comes the Ditto trying to do something, but Headlong Rush is a great call to hand off the KO there. And now it's like, how do you deal with Enamorus with this team? I don't really think anything does. That potentially was your best sack, but you have to outspeed here, and this is probably into Horn Leech to try to stay alive. The problem is Moonblast is just doing a lot, and then Ivy Cudgel is a KO. So, but Infernape should just be able to come in with its speed, outspeed, or show off Vacuum Punch and just get 2 kills and win. So that is a 3-0 win for Hammy to put himself into playoffs. As we said, that battle was for playoffs. So Hammy puts himself in the playoffs. Clock takes another loss, put himself at 3-4. Hammy at 3-4 as well, but Hammy jumps there with the win. So let's take a look at our standings, which is the important part going into week number 8. Week number 8. So we're gonna see some changes to the stats. This is now 6-1. This is now seeing a drop and a change of leadership of the number 1 seed for that hasn't happened in quite some time, actually, but we did know that Thread did beat King Kryptonite in the head-to-head. So if it came down to diff like that, it would matter a little bit more, I think, in some of these cases. All the 4 and 2 teams lost this week, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Really making these underdog teams not able to get in the playoffs. So, and really pushing this week 8 into a great spot. Now 3 is not enough to win. 3 is not enough to win now. That is not 3 and 5. That should be 3 and 4. Making 3 wins barely enough to get in at this point, which is kind of crazy. And a crazy way to go for all the teams involved. We see a lot of the top dogs losing. Potentially this just shows us that they aren't that great. Maybe, I don't know. It really depends. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Maybe they're still good enough. Maybe they're not. Who knows? Oh, I changed you to 1 and 6 and you won. You're sorry. You should be 2 and 5. Rather. With a negative 11. And why can't I do this math on my head? Yeah, negative 15. Negative 29. That's crazy. So you have some flippings going on here when it comes to the placements. A lot of 4 and 3 teams. As I said, 4 is what you need to do to get in. And I think all these teams are in essentially this week. So yes, there is a change here where Dom jumps over Wastecar for the 5th seed. Other than that, Hammy and the Rillabooms take over Clock's spot as the next in. everything else stays the same. Oh, you're not 1-6, you're 0-7. My bad. Messed that up too. All right, so this is the sets going into it for the final week of games. Oh, sorry, I didn't change the top 2. I meant to. I just forgot to. So again, the Choodles and the Sunkerns have been in playoffs since week 5, essentially. So we haven't needed to talk about them. But this race right here is crazy. All these 4 and 3 teams are guaranteed in. They're all guaranteed in because it's going to be hard for, well, let's see who's playing. Is Kansas City playing somebody? Who is KC playing? KC is playing the Pristine Primarinas. So this matchup is the big one for this week. And I'm going to make that shown on the dock here. This is the big matchup for this week. The Pristine Primarinas versus the Kansas City Torrent. Because if the Torrent can win, they're in. They can get in. The other big match is actually mine for this week. Where if I win, then Hammy gets taken out. So like these are the 2 big matches for the week. The rest probably don't matter too much. Considering these are the 2 on the bubble, Gordon might matter a little bit. Gordon matters too in this fight. Because that is versus the Sunkerns. And them losing bad here. Them losing bad here could put them out of the tournament in the right situations. So we're gonna play a lot of like if then asking question stuff here. Those are the 3 big matches. Choodles versus Celebes do not matter. Cleveland Bears versus the Cresselia do not matter. That much, it kind of matters. It's not that important. And the Orange County Oshawas versus the Golden Glaceons doesn't matter too much. Now, they all can matter if the wrong team loses. Like if Waste Car would go down, if Gordon goes down, if Hammy goes down, that does give opportunities for Clock to jump in. But Clock has to win their match. On the other side of that, Mate can get in under a couple situations too. They have to win their match pretty sizably, and Hammy has to lose. So if they would win 6-0, they would be at -5. Hammy would have to lose 0-2 for them to get in. So that is an opportunity for Mate to get in. For me to get in, since we play the Richmond Rillabooms, I have to 6-0 them because that puts both of us at -9 differential, and I win the head-to-head. So if I would win 6-0, that puts me in over the Rillabooms, which again is what I have to play for. As I said, if I wanted a shot at getting into playoffs, I was going for 6-0s. That is what the plan was both weeks. So that's what you got both weeks. Did happen to get it week 7. We'll see about week 8. For the Rillaboom to get in, they just need to win their match. For the Torrent to get in, they need to win their match pretty sizably. A 6-0 does not guarantee it, depending on how well Hammy does. They need Hammy's team to lose. That's what they really need. But otherwise, I think the top seeds are pretty much set. The only other thing I can think of is Gordon losing pretty bad to the Sunkerns, getting a 6-0 at -6 with a Torrent win. With a Torrent win, Clock gets in. So that is how that looks. So any of the teams can still get in. It's very unlikely It's completely unlikely, impossible for Scal to get in. Winning a match would be great though, and you could play spoiler to Wastecar's team if you do well enough, because you get -3. I mean, if Hammy wins, he jumps that. If Clock wins, they could jump that. So you could play spoiler if you get a dub, which will matter in placements. I have a very unlikely chance of getting in. The only way I win is the only way I get in is if the standings stay basically the same and there's a 6-0 win over the Rillabooms, which it's Hammy, and Hammy's a great coach, so I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. Mate has a shot, not great, but a shot. And that would require a really good win for them over the Cleveland Bewares. So that's another match to watch. It's crazy that over half of our matches are big watches this week. Over half. Only 2 of them aren't really that matter too much. And that just shows you how close this league is, especially like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams at 4 and 3, 2 teams at 3 and 4. And that's the bubble, which is crazy. So diff is going to be really important in these final matches. And honestly, any of these foreign Banzai is in. Banzai is in. Even losing 6-0, you are going to be at negative. Like the worst you can do is 4 and 4 at 17. 4 and 4 at 7, which is higher. Which, you know, if the Bewares would win, you know, they would jump you. If Dom would win, they would jump you. But can like one of these teams down here, like if a 3 and 4 team win, they can't get the +7. So you're guaranteed in. The Bewares, same thing. Not both of the 3 and 4 teams can't get to 1 differential. Dom is where there is a little bit of a question. So anything 5 and below is on the cusp of getting kicked out. If Dom loses 6-0, that is a -1 at 4 and 4. Hammy easily can obtain that with a sizable win, getting them with only 2, with the differential of 2, and the Torrent can tie that at a -1 differential. So Dom has to hope that Clock does it 6-0, which is funny because that's the matchup. So if Clock can 6-0 RGD Dom, he takes him out single-handedly. So that is his important matchup there. For the Cresselia, you know, we're looking at worst case scenarios for these teams if they would lose out. Mate still has a really good chance, assuming that they can pull off a 4-0 win. If that is the case, they can jump the Richmond Rillabooms if they lose. 6-0. But again, this is another big match to watch. To see spoilers. Again, I can make it in if I have to win 6-0 and all these other things gotta not go crazy. I need all these teams to win and these teams to lose. So that is the only way I get in. It's a very, very small chance, but there is one. And again, Scal has no shot. So the best that these teams can do right now is what they have. And you see, you know, if it was a 6-0, 6-0, that's a -9. That ties, you know. Mate, if everything goes right, still can be on the outside looking in. And probably will be because, you know, it's hard for all these teams to lose. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams you need to lose. We know they're playing. We know that Clock or Dom have to win. So you're not looking good, mate, on getting in here. And again, that's the same thing for me. Like Clock or Mate have to win. Clock or Dom have to win. And if Clock loses, then we both have a shot. But if they don't, then yeah. But really, if you're looking at me, I need Mate, Clock, and Hammy to lose. and anything else can happen anywhere else. But those three have to lose, which is possible, I believe, because Mate plays the Bewares and Clock plays the Creselias. So it is possible for that situation to happen. For Mate to get in, Clock, Hammy have to lose. Clock and Hammy have to lose, which is again a possible situation because I can still win and not jump Mate in differential if he does his battle well enough. He just needs 2 kills, and he probably sits on top of the team still. 3 kills secures it, but yeah. If you're Clock trying to get in, you have to win your match as much as you can, and hope that Hammy loses. So a lot plays on my match this week on who gets in and who gets out. Did I consider that? No, I was more focused on can I win and can I 6-0? Because if I can't 6-0 Hammy, then I don't have a shot, and we play for S&G at that point, which is shits and giggles. So we'll see what happens. But that is the watch party for week 7. Next week, we will be determining who gets in of these bottom teams. Do the 4 and 3s hold up? Do the 3 and 4s make a leap into the middle of it? Do they squeak in? Can one of our 2 and 5 teams have a shot at playoffs with a win record of 3? That's going to be crazy. But we'll check it out next week. Stay tuned for that. You can subscribe to the channel for that. Appreciate any of you who are watching this after the fact on the replay on the VODs. Appreciate any of you who are in the chat lurking. Or have jumped in at any point in time. I really appreciate the likes too. That really does help support us. For those of you used to the regular content, we will be back with Heart Gold Best Team as soon as the series is over. As I said, once we get in the playoffs and we have less teams, I will definitely be switching back over to that a little bit more fast, because I won't be sitting here for 2 hours explaining teams and all the fun stuff. It's crazy that I can do 3 teams. I can do 3 weeks of content in 3 hours and 1 week of content in 2. It just boggles my mind at how this takes. But we have a couple teams guaranteed in. We have the top 3 are, these 3 are golden. So I'm going to make them golden. They are in. The rest of you have to really worry, because you can be taken out if things go south, and the Oshawotts are out. So I'm actually going to make them green. So those 3 are in. That one is out, and then everything else is a gradient at this point. To see who gets where and can make it into playoffs or not. But yeah, I appreciate you all watching. Thank you all for joining here. I hope you are enjoying the watch parties. I hope you are enjoying GPA. I look forward to being back with videos. And as I said, none of my battles are going to be video content. I joined this league specifically at the end here just to make sure that I could make it a little bit of a game, and not just give, teams wins necessarily. I mean, if I stopped playing, that would have gave Scal a win there. That would have made this next week not really matter, because Hammy gets a 3-0 win, and is guaranteed in at that point. So yeah, it really matters that I played, because it does have the opportunity to change up the standings and so forth. But yeah, that's why I'm here. So again, thank you all the coaches who've picked up a team in the middle of the season. Thank you for the coaches who've been playing your matches, completing them on time. Look forward to see what week 8 holds, and good luck to everybody in their bids for the playoff. But that is all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Until next time, though, my name is Chaos. I am signing off. Stay safe, and as always, bring it up.